All right, it's 7 o'clock. Thank you and welcome. Also welcome to anyone who is watching us on either the live stream or later on the catch-up. This is the Town Promotion Committee meeting on Wednesday, the 4th of January 2023, so the first of the year. Straight into the agenda, everyone okay? Do I have any apologies?
Apologies from Councillor Moore for a personal.
Okay, anyone else? I think everyone else is...
Jane's not here. She might be late though.
And we don't have Councillor Piper and Rizeki, do we?
No.
I don't have any apologies for them. No? Okay. Item 2, any declarations of interest? No. Item 3, to approve the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the Town Promotion Committee held on the 12th of October 2022 as a true record. Does anyone propose that?
I'll propose, Chair.
I saw Councillor Austin's hand first, so I'll take you, Councillor Alban, as the seconder, please.
Thank you.
All agreed?
Agreed.
We now have, at this point, a special motion. So the first thing is the procedure for considering a matter that's not on the agenda. So an emergency motion has been received and councillors are asked to consider if they wish to debate this matter. Are you willing to suspend a particular standing order? Standing order 10A 15? If you wish, so it's no motion may be moved at a meeting unless it is on the agenda and the mover has given written notice of its wording to the proper officer at least 5 clear days before the meeting. Clear days do not include the day of the notice of the meeting. I'm just trying to, thank you.
I was just going to say, it's not on the agenda, Chair, as far as I can see, or am I missing?
That's a special motion.
Where?
Here.
It's not the motion, is it?
It's
not the motion, is it? Yes.
Chair, I think we need to know what the motion is before.
Yeah, I've just, thank you.
It's not on the agenda.
That's why it's a special motion and I'm asking if you're prepared to consider it.
Well, sorry, Chair, if I can come back and just ask, is it an emergency motion?
It could be. So let me tell you what it is.
Well, I just wanted to know what it is.
We need to know what it is. I agree, Councillor.
Due to the wind and rain on New Year's Eve, the decision was made to cancel the New Year's Eve fireworks display by Viking Fireworks Limited. There were some costs for this event that were not refundable. However, the £3,500 for the fireworks themselves was not chargeable. The council has no obligation to buy these fireworks from Viking Fireworks Limited. There is no recourse for not using them. However, members are asked to consider, as there is the budget and the fireworks available, if an alternative fireworks display should be arranged. Possible suggestions have been made, which the first one is a Chinese New Year celebration on Sunday the 22nd of January, and it is for that one that we would need to discuss and agree this motion tonight. The New Year in China takes place at 6 p.m, and so this would be a family-friendly time to have a display. Families would be encouraged to bring the lanterns that were made for the Christmas parade. Alternatively, we could wire these funds into the coronation budget and have a fireworks display as part of the coronation activities in May, or we do not commit these funds at this time and allow them to be wired if or as required in the coming months. This matter has been brought to the committee as an emergency motion because the monies involved are above officers' delegated powers of expenditure, and if the committee wanted to have a Chinese New Year celebration, the organisation of this would need to take place very quickly. Are we happy to discuss it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. You've heard me read it. Does anyone want to speak? I saw Councillor Wing first, and actually going around the room, Councillor Young, Councillor Green, Councillor Hetherington. So, Councillor.
I voted against fireworks the last time we discussed fireworks, and I remain totally opposed to fireworks. And I think it's backed up by a bit of information from the public now. It might be family friendly, but it's certainly not environmentally friendly, and it doesn't sit right with me that we forced TDC to undertake an environmental impact assessment because of the development of the berth, and yet we're quite happy to allow fireworks right next to our SSSI. I think the impact on wildlife is fairly well evidenced. I think last time there was an argument that people missed the fireworks, but following the cancellation of the fireworks, there were very few complaints by the public. That might have been because we made a very sensible decision. But I think it's time to move on. We've either got to move to silent fireworks or we've just got to remove them at all. I mean, £3,000 for 7 minutes is a pretty shocking waste of our money. Thank you.
Councillor Young.
I agree quite a bit with what Becky's saying. I do think that we could use that money for the coronation celebration in a better way for the town.
Okay, Councillor Green.
I want to endorse what Councillor Young just said, because that's exactly my view.
Yeah, and Councillor Hetherington.
Well, I'm a big fan of fireworks, actually. Personally, I find them very attractive. I enjoy them and they look splendid. But I have to say that what I like, and this doesn't necessarily, one has to think of the big picture, and I have sort of been thinking more about this, and I do feel that they are quite environmentally unfriendly.
Okay, anyone else?
Please.
Yeah.
Total opposite view, I guess, as usual. I just think our residents enjoy fireworks. I take it could be environmentally unfriendly, but for a few minutes. You know, I'm also an animal lover, and it does concern me a bit about people's dogs, etc., etc. However, you know, the last time I was out and watched fireworks, there was loads of people with their dogs on leads watching the fireworks, and they weren't bothered at all. Some are more sensitive. In my humble opinion, I would prefer the money to go towards fireworks for the coronation in May, and I'm sure our residents would like it.
Councillor Hara?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Steve, and I'm very fond of fireworks, and I think majority of our community, you know, they are very fond of our fireworks. And when we have the fireworks on New Year's Eve or any time, we get thousands of people coming into town, not only from Ramsgate. I mean, remember the Jubilee ones. We had people from all over Thanet because we were the only people did it roasted. They didn't have the fireworks. So I think no, it's a good thing for the town to bring lots of people outside and bringing into the town.
Anyone else? Sorry,
I was just going to say, I also support having the fireworks. When the coronation is happening, it'll be light till quite late.
yeah,
It has to be at 10 o'clock.
or something.
Yeah, so it'll have to be quite late. And Chinese New Year would be nice, but again, the weather in January is always a bit dodgy, so I would prepare them for the coronation, yes.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'd like to add my own comment in that I think, like Councillor Alban, I was actually very surprised last year at the sheer number of people that actually turned up with their dogs, and those dogs were not frightened. That did surprise me. But a comment was made earlier about maybe we could spend this money in a better way, not necessarily on fireworks or the coronation. But I do think...
Sorry.
Okay. I do think that whilst there are all sorts of arguments for how we could spend £3,500 in alleviating some of the difficulties that we have around, we also have a situation where people actually enjoy some things. They are bright. They are not part of the drudgery that is around us. And are actually good for mental health because it comes under the old heading of environmental poverty. We live with poverty all the time, and I guess I'm getting some objections. But That's my view, and I wanted to add that in as well. So yes, councillor Wing.
The dogs fall into three categories, in my opinion. They're either not affected, I don't know the percentages, or they're terrified and go under furniture, or like my dog, they're extremely reactive and bark. But nobody's mentioned the impact on wildlife. You know, we have kingfisher in our harbour, you know, that people visit all year round. We have peregrine falcons up there. We have wildlife that's out in the ocean, and I don't think we should be doing this. I'd also like to counter the argument that it's good for people's mental health. You know, in my past I've liked fireworks. I now balance the impact on the environment rather than my personal enjoyment of them. And my issue is with the noise, okay? And there are people who live in our town with increasing mental health issues where the large noises and large light that comes out of the ordinary, even if you know about it, triggers them. We also have people locally who suffer with post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, everybody around this room supports our forces coming back, and yet we make them suffer with 7 minutes of technically gunshot. So, you know, I'm quite passionate about this, and lots of authorities have actually removed this. And some of them have gone one stage and actually removed the noise. And what I'm saying is, I'm constantly listening to people who don't want to fund activities, and yet we spend a large amount of money on 7 minutes of entertainment. None of it makes sense to me, either environmentally or economically, I'm afraid.
Councillor Hetherington.
Oh, I thought it was David next, actually.
Fred.
Well, I mean, there were some suggestions on various sites about laser lights again. I don't know whether people saw that. I mean, there seemed to be quite a cross-section of people commenting on a number of sites. We love Ramsgate, etc. Pros and cons, fairly evenly split, I thought. But, I mean, that could be an attractive proposition and more environmentally friendly. I think we did it one year, didn't we? It wasn't particularly successful, but it could be improved on, no doubt.
I think Councillor Austin had her hand up.
I don't think I was next, but I was actually wanting to ask whether Rebecca could comment on that specific suggestion. So would
Okay.
you mind if we took
The laser.
the laser?
Okay, and then I'll come to you.
Would that be okay?
Yes, I think it was 5 years ago
Yeah,
we did the lasers, and that was on the back of, you know, decisions around, it was actually around bad weather, timing. It was also about losing the harbour as a site to fire. And the problem with the lasers then, and of course things change quite quickly, is you have a very limited viewing space. So because you have to really stand in between the two lasers and also create a lot of smoke to get the effect. Now the people that stood in the right place said they were brilliant. But everyone else was like, well,
Not everybody could
so
see it.
that was.
Yeah, I just wondered if there were improvements in the last 5 years.
By the tunnel.
Okay, I've got Councillor Alban and then Councillor Nixie.
Could I just say, obviously, that if the weather had been good, we'd have had the fireworks and we wouldn't be sitting here, would we?
No, that's true.
So, you know, whilst I do take into account what Councillor Wing has said, and she is very passionate about it, and, you know, which is fair comment, but 7 minutes of a few fireworks isn't going to affect much. The kingfishers have been here on times when fireworks have been here, so and they haven't gone, they've stayed or come back or whatever it may be. So I just think, you know, we're making a mountain out of a molehill here. So I just think our residents would like it. We should put the fireworks on in May, end of.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do Councillor Nixie, Councillor Green, and then I will think we need to move to the vote because we're going to get repetitive, I think.
So apologies at home. The reason I was on it is because I was looking up environmentally friendly fireworks, both in terms of pollution but also in terms of noise, and there's a whole host of things out there. So if we are going to do it, can't we speak to our contracts therefore and say that this is the style in which we are looking towards, and then negotiate accordingly? Because if that's what we're trying to do, become more environmentally friendly, it doesn't mean to say that we can't. They are out there. There's loads of sites. It's quite interesting actually. So there are low noise ones, there are low sulphur ones, etc., etc. We just have to make the decision to use those ones, don't we? Doesn't that solve the problem?
Okay, Councillor Green.
if we are going to go for the coronation, which I think most people agree, this is something different for us. So it is a glorious opportunity to try something different, like quiet fireworks.
Yes.
So I suggest and would propose that that's what we do.
Right, so in that case, what I'm hearing from Councillor Green there is a proposal that we consider item B on the back of this page, which is the via the funds into the coronation budget and have a firework display as part of the coronation activities in May, to which I would suggest we add something along the lines that we ask our town promoter to investigate more environmentally friendly fireworks.
Indeed.
Would that be acceptable?
Yes.
I propose that, Chair, if no one else,
Okay, well,
unless you want to do it through the Chair.
I think I've just proposed it from the chair.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Take that as a
Yeah.
second.
Just one point, I don't think we have a coronation budget. I don't think we have a coronation.
Picky.
You do now, if you both.
Yeah, we have, we've got £3,500 worth of fireworks.
Last 7 minutes.
In that, I mean, look at London for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, exactly.
Millions upon millions of
Okay.
pounds spent. Fantastic. Loved every second of it.
I proposed, I have a seconder, can we have please have a vote in favour for that? And against? So, were there any abstentions? So, one against, the rest in favour. Thank you.
Just, and then you just need to reinstate the standing
Yes,
order.
sorry, we just need to reinstate standing orders. We are back on the agenda. Thank you. So the next item is item 4, the active Ramsgate meetings, to receive and note the minutes from the previous active Ramsgate meetings. In this particular case, the one on the 18th of November that was circulated with the agenda. Can I have a proposer or first? Councillor Huxley, seconder. Councillor Green. Can you do that? Were you there?
Yeah, Chair, Councillor Green wasn't at the meeting actually.
You weren't at the meeting?
It's a long while ago.
I've done it before as well. Can I have a seconder from someone who was... No, you asking me, so I'll second it. I'll have to second it. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so in that case, all we can do is receive and note. We can't actually. The open public spaces strategy meetings, there have been 2, the 10th of November and the 9th of December. Again, I think it was only councillors Huxley and myself that were there. So they, again, were circulated with
On the 10th, I was there. There was Becky.
my apologies, Councillor Wing, you were.
That's why I never volunteered to second anything.
Did anyone have any queries or anything they wanted to raise from those minutes? No.
It's very positive.
Thank you. Town promoter, item 6. So to receive and consider the written reports from the town promoter. And the first one is the proposal for the Visit Ramsgate leaflet. The second one is the empty shop report as of December 2022. For us to note those reports, and then the recommendations for the town beautification report. So if I can hand over to Rebecca at this point to say anything you need to say in respect of those reports, please.
So yes, the first one is around an actual leaflet for Ramsgate. Quite a few comments this year about the fact that we didn't have anything for visitors to take away other than the active Ramsgate. But I'm missing the Ramsgate rocks, which of course had 14 pages of exploring Ramsgate and signposting people to the tunnels, the museums, and talking about things they can do for a £5, things that are free, and trial trails and things like that. A little bit of history on Ramsgate. And so I looked into options, because also we've looked at Ramsgate rocks and had very few people this year last year coming forward wanting to advertise. And advertising is how we print that and publish that booklet. Normally we get about £3,500 worth of advertising, and this year I've had the equivalent of around 300, so it's massively down, and clearly not enough for us to consider the same option. So a Visit Ramsgate brochure could have links to where they can find out more about events, and we can also highlight the main events, those key events that bring people into the town within that publication. And while I was writing this report, I was looking for information around the popularity of having something solid, something tangible, particularly when you're on holiday. And I was quite surprised by the data that I found. Locally, Visit Thanet still rely heavily on the Visit Thanet map and the information map. So it's really popular, not just with attractions and hotels, etc., but with the general public. I mean, they had to order more in last year. And there's evidence to suggest that the influence of picking up a brochure can even change people's travel plans, and makes them stay longer and spend more, which ultimately is what we want them to do. And it also gives them an idea of what might be happening later on, so they may well revisit. So my idea is that we do develop something along the lines of a Visit Ramsgate brochure. It'll be a DL, so it can sit in leaflet display holders across from our station. We now have replaced that one, obviously downstairs and in the local visitor information centres as well. It will probably be around a maximum of 24 pages. It will have a fold-out map, and it will be something we can refresh every year. We're just doing a certain amount. So I wanted to propose that idea as a thing to note.
The recommendation is simply to note that that's an activity that you've got in hand. So thank you. If I can get you to.
Can I just ask a question? Obviously, back in the dim and distant past, the black and white television and stuff, there used to be many films about Ramsgate and other places. Have we thought about doing a promotional video of Ramsgate and what we do and how we do, and what the attractions are? Just a thought. I mean, I think to work on it anyway through the year. I'm not saying that, but just wondering whether you think that would be a good idea or not.
Where would it be shown?
I thought we had one.
I think there's a Visit Thanet one, isn't it?
We have the one that you did
Visit Thanet.
for opening up after lockdown, don't
We
we?
did one during lockdown, which has been.
I'm just thinking, even if it's on Ramsgate Town Council's website, people will look at the coming to Ramsgate, Google Ramsgate, and if you've got promotional video that's showing the best of it.
Okay, Councillor Young.
I'm just thinking, you were talking about the video, and I was wondering, what about a competition for people in the town? If somebody can make a short video on different points, I mean, we might get something really unusual, and from the people on the streets.
Wrong unusual, that's the one thing.
I think maybe as far as this report is concerned, we're only noting about the brochure. Perhaps we can.
Sorry about that, but
leave the town promoter to tuck that into the back of her notebook that she's got there to make a note of as possibilities to come back to. And I think it would have been under Ramsgate Borough Council that the old ones were done pre-TDC. I do have councillors Hetherington and Green in that order. Please.
I was spurred on by what Stephen was saying. I mean, I remember once going to a party where there was a fantastic presentation done of various old videos of the town, absolutely stunning of your, Rob Holt.
I've got copies of them.
But really would be quite useful to put up there too, because they're really fabulous.
Okay, councillor Green?
Well, I've got two questions really. The first is, do we know what TDC are doing to promote Ramsgate? And the second one is, do we have a budget?
I love the way the man who's Chair of Finance and General Purposes always asks the finance question. Thank you, councillor Green. I think, yes, I mean, obviously we would have to look at what the budget would be and where that would come under, but if we can leave that with the town promoter to investigate and look at, that might even be something that, dare I say it, we could pull out of the active Ramsgate budget if it goes through. We'll take that on. We'll take that as a takeaway, if that's all right with everyone. And I do have councillor Ing and councillor Ara. Was it that councillor Ara first then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say that, some of my events has been videoed and it went really well, isn't it, Dean? I mean, Dean puts them on YouTube and website, and thousands of people been viewing those videos.
Yeah.
So and that's been promoting Ramsgate. I mean, the harbour and the clips from everything. together.
Councillor,
I think we'd have to be careful using the previous videos, and I've got copies of them. We showed them at the
Copyright.
No, copyright.
They're not.
They belong to Thanet, so I got them off of Ralph Holt. But having watched them about 1,000 times as part of the Royal Jubilee, I found that there were two bits that are not appropriate in terms of I think it's the Ramsgate Lovelies and the black and white minstrel.
Can we?
Just out of context of today's but I think possibly thinking about a video in future, and we have an empty window down there, and trying to get something on a roll so that if people walk past maybe one of the shops on the harbour and there's a constant roll of what's there. But the last time I went camping in my camper van down on the coast, I went straight to the tourist information, and the one thing I picked up was a map of the entire area, which had a list of where to eat, a list of attractions, and it seemed as if the map was updated on a month or a season basis. So Christmas, the lights in the harbour would be there, but not in the summer. So I think a map is a very simple thing that you can pick up, fold up, and put in your pocket.
I'd like to move on. I think we are just noting the recommendation of this item 6.1. Unless it's something new to add.
Just the one with the drone film.
Right, but the discussion that's developed out of this, which is about the possibility of us commissioning our own video for Ramsgate, is something that I will take away in conjunction with the town promoter, so that is something that will be looked at. If everyone's okay with that, I'll get the town promoter to move on to item 6.2, please.
Are we just noting the report?
We're just noting that one, yeah, and we're just noting this one as well. So this is just a short.
I propose that we note the report.
Sorry.
I propose that we note the report.
Okay. Okay. Everyone agreed that we note the reports? Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, councillor Green.
So the next report
is 6.2, empty shops.
Yes, so this is a report I've been doing for 3 years. So I was really pleased to say that in 2019, the total percentage of empty shops was 14.75, and we're actually, for the first time, below that at this point, so it's at 12.6% now. However, I think it's also worth noting that there are many businesses struggling and are anxious about the coming months, and concerns around rising fuel costs, inflation and interest rates, and the possibility of the country going into recession. I know quite a lot of you follow businesses on Facebook, and one very popular business printed their electricity bill, which was a 3-month and 1 week electricity bill at £11,000.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know if I want to say it in the meeting, but it is in public domain, yes. And I don't think they'd mind, but I think it's I just thought it's something I know we're all aware of, but that kind of puts it into context.
Okay, this is just to note this, that there is no recommendation at the end that says to note this, and that is what we are doing. But I do have Councillor Green who wants to come in and Councillor Wing. So Councillor Green.
This is an excellent report.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really eye-opening. There's no proposal to do anything other than note it, but I think doing anything major to help our local businesses is probably beyond us and may even be beyond TDC. But I also know that TDC have at least 2 grant pots that are supposed to be used to take over some of the empty shops and use them to encourage business.
One of them is mentioned here, I think.
But I don't know what's happening with them. TDC members may do.
No, we don't.
But
I did see in here one of the mentioned. I'm just looking at Rebecca if she can find them quicker than I can.
Do you want me to say?
well, so if we're going to do anything at all with this information, working with TDC on 1 or 2 of those projects is probably about as much we could manage. Just my view.
Okay, Councillor Wing.
I think it's the longevity of it is brilliant as well, because it can predict trends, and I do think if you look, I do think there is a sustainability around some of our businesses because they're not being helped by TDC or KCC, so it's people trying to drive forward progress, which is always more sustainable than a load of money being given to force something on an area. But where I think we fall down, and I accept Rebecca does a hell of a lot of work in doing this, is we only concentrate on the town centre, and we have other areas outside of the town centre in other wards where we don't have any information about whether shops are growing or shutting. And with the reduction in our bus transport around the area, I think it's really important that we find out what's going on in parts of Newington where there's shops, because we have people locally who have to walk to their shops. They don't find it easy to get into the town centre. So is there any way going forward we could try and look at some of the other areas? After all, every resident contributes to the precept, and try and find out what's going on in other parts of our community.
I think what I'd like, that sounds to me like quite a large piece of work, and what I'd like to do is record it in the minutes as something to be taken up with the town clerk. Because that sounds like quite a lot of work in that. So
I would ask, with a view to doing what?
The same thing as we do in Harbour Street, in the town centre. Why do we do this for Harbour Street? Why do we do this for the town centre? It's to look at whether there's a trend of growth or growth, and we get town centre centric, and we represent the whole. It's weird coming from a Central Harbour person, but we represent the whole of the community, and so really we should be trying to have a look at what's going on in some of our other communities that rely very heavily on the shops that are there, or in the case of Cliff's End, no shop.
okay. I'm going to bring in Councillor Alban and then Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Chair. I think just to go back on Councillor Wing's point there, places like Newington, where the shops are in the centre of the estate, effectively do quite well because everyone is local. They're more likely to stay there and use those shops. That also goes for other places where there are parade of shops, and those businesses obviously are suffering like every other business. But I do think that they're more likely to survive because they've got a catchment area of their own. The town hub, if you like, the town in itself, the main shopping area in itself, is not particularly used by people of Newington or Northwood or wherever that may be, as they're outlying. And so there is this thing about the high, because I mean, we've seen it, see it across the country. When the high street in a town goes, the town goes. this is the main fight, is to try and keep our shops open. But unless the government changes their view on business rates, on how they help businesses, we've got no power or whatever whatsoever to able to intervene, because we just haven't, one, we haven't got resources, and two, we're not in control of that legislation. So that's the difficulty that our shopkeepers and as well is getting people to try and come into the town and use the shops. But certainly, I'm not astonished by the £11,000 for a 3 month. But it's just ridiculous. I mean, how does the government expect these businesses to stay operated by imposing, because it's them, they caused it, no other bugger, and they should be trying to help all businesses like
Okay, can I?
End of, sorry.
Thank you. Can I bring in Councillor Nixie? Soapbox over.
If you look back at our minutes, we were actually asked to go into our wards a while back. You'll remember this, won't you? Because it'll be something that you wouldn't have to do, bless you. So you think. So councillors were asked to look at their wards and to look at which shops were empty, and to basically do an element of, data collection, so that we had this. And I did half of that and didn't do the other half, if you know what I mean. So I looked at. So I'm on Grange Road, and so Nethercourt's got one side, the shops on Grange Road round there, round at St Lawrence, and then we've got the Rydell shop in the estate, or what have you, mainly. And it's, as Councillor Alban says, it's those shops like the Co-op and so on and so forth that are there, that are serving the community, that stay open. And I'm pleased to say that a couple of new shops have opened, like the Foliage one, and the cafes especially are helping the people and residents in those areas, which is great. And the other ones that don't stay open or close on a regular basis, it always seems to be the same ones, generally are businesses that aren't doing that for the local community and aren't so specialist, like the Panasonic repair shop on Grange Road, that they have an outlying custom because people come to them because it's the only place. So there's this difficult tendency for shops. Like there was a paint your own potter, I don't know if that's still there, but it's like they didn't quite manage it, bless them, And so I'm with Councillor Wing on the fact that having the data actually would be quite interesting to look at, because it does show trends and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, that's a private landlord with a shop and somebody wants to rent it, and if there aren't incentives, as Councillor Alban was saying, from the government and so on and so forth, if nobody's getting anything, as a RTC councillor, I'm sort of like powerless to do anything to help them, sadly. So basically, when I started this off and looked at the rest of it, that's what I thought, where am I going with this? Do you know what I mean? I can't do anything, but I'd like to. So that's my problem.
Thank you. I think that actually echoes Councillor Green's question at the beginning, was what are we going to do with it? Can I propose that we actually note this report and have a second of Councillor Alban? And we have the minutes recorded that we've had this discussion, and perhaps ask the town clerk to look at the suggestions and discussion that have been made.
Could I make a proposal then? Just each ward councillor just go round their ward and see what empty shops there are, just so that we just.
Did that.
I mean, even
we did
that.
Well, I think what I've proposed is that we ask the town clerk to look at the minutes of the discussion and to see what can come from that.
I know. I was thinking more of like, as in it's more recent. Let's look now as opposed to back then, and just check what are empty.
Okay, councillor.
When reading the literature about what's done elsewhere, it's had some success. Two things spring to mind. One is to try and diversify the uses that the shops have in the town centre towards more social things. And the other is to provide start-up spaces so that people that think they might be able to move into a shop have somewhere where they can test that out for a few months, 6 months, rate-free, and with the rent subsidised. Now, my understanding This is what TDC has got grant money to do,
Indeed.
but I haven't seen them do it.
As part of the High Street Fund, Chair, sorry.
I think the question is, what can we do as a town council? But
It seems to me, well, all we could do, or the best thing that we could do, is encourage TDC to get on and use these two grants as the High Street Fund and the Levelling Up Fund, to get on and do it. And if it requires a little bit of help financially from us, and it would be a little bit of help,
Chair,
it's the TDC that we're willing to help.
Chair, if I can come back.
I've got councillor Nixie and yourself.
Just to go on.
Last two comments, that's all I'm going to take.
Well, I was going to say one step up on what David was saying with regards to, chivying TDC along to see if we could do anything. Also, I mean, using our social media, couldn't we suggest people, if you are thinking of starting up a new business, promoting like life in Ramsgate, why not contact TDC to see how they can help you and just leave it at that? Do you know what I mean? So do that one bit extra, but push people in the direction of TDC to chivvy them along as well.
And last one, councillor.
Yeah, I did just to say that at the Levelling Up meeting, I have questioned Louise Askew in relation to the High Street Fund, because what are you doing? And I was told they are still in negotiation with one of the businesses up there. They've got one already, but they want to get the two, and they were still in negotiation with the owner and the landlord to get that building if they were willing to sell it or requisition.
I would just like to say something else, please.
Okay, last one.
And I follow on from Anne-Marie, because she's already, in that little discussion, you've already put in my head that if I wanted to go on Grange Road and wanted to open a certain business, you'd be telling me, don't bother, it will fail. Because you're giving me an idea of what businesses are successful, like the co-op, because they're open longer. But it's also an opportunity via our magazine to highlight some of these centres that exist in other parts. So the Newton Fish Bar is renowned for its fish and chips.
Yes.
And if somebody comes into this area, I'd hope they go to the Newton Fish Bar to get their paper-based fish and chips. So I think there is a lot we can do by using that community magazine that now goes to everybody, by highlighting some of the shopping areas we have outside of the town centre.
Okay.
I think it would be unfair to.
Okay, hang on. We have a proposal to note this report, to which I have added that we will ask the town clerk in conjunction with the town promoter in particular to look at how we can take on board the contents of the discussion that we've had. In other words, how we can actually use this information in a more positive way. That's proposed and seconded. Does everyone agree?
Agree.
Great. That means that we can move on to the next one, which is item 6.3, which is still with the town promoter, the town beautification projects, which has a recommendations at the end to note the updates regarding the Harbour Arch lighting project and to consider if the town centre and tourism manager should investigate hanging poles.
It's like I'm not Romanian,
the first thing is I'm just going to say as hoping everyone's read that, can we note the updates regarding the Harbour Arch lighting project? So first, does anyone have any questions on the Harbour Arch lighting project? No? Okay, then I'd like to propose that we note those updates. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hetherington. Everyone in favour?
Agree.
Okay, moving on to the second half of the report, to consider if the town centre and tourism manager, who I keep calling the town promoter because I'm getting titles changed, but town promoter's less of a mouthful, should investigate hanging poles. So, town centre and tourism manager.
It's unfair on the publisher, I'm sorry.
It's with a small p.
Would you like to pick up with the hanging poles, please?
Yes, so it was an idea about having something more welcoming at the entrance to the town centre, and these are something that I think look quite nice in certain areas of Margate, particularly around Cecil Square.
Yep.
They look quite nice, there's an option to look at having the ones that either go over bollards, so they can be removed, or you put them in replace of bollards. So at this point, it's something we've discussed, albeit briefly, in a meeting about 6-7 months ago. But it was really to look at whether or not it is something you'd like to reconsider as an option for the entrance to the town centre, where there are plenty of bollards. And I'll go away and research it and report back.
Okay, I've got Councillor Orban and Councillor Austin.
Councillor Nixie.
And Councillor Nixie, sorry.
I mean, I'm a happy chair for, as the recommendation says, to consider the town centre tourism manager should investigate hanging basketball. And it's purely an investigation into it. Let's see what the costs are. Let's see where the areas that we think they should be in, or any recommendations that come back, and I'm happy with that.
Councillor Austin?
Yep, I second that. I think we've tried very hard to do a variety of other decorative things in the entrance to the town, and for one reason or another it hasn't worked brilliantly. A lot of effort and time has been spent on it. This seems to me to be a positive solution that we can investigate and look at the costs and tailor to whatever budget we have available.
Councillor Nixie?
You know, there's me, Mrs Gardner and MGS and all the rest of it, and I look at these hanging basket poles and everything, and I can't help but cringe at them. I find them unsightly. I love all the flowers and everything, but I find them unsightly. When they're good in Tunbridge Wells and places like that, they're absolutely exceptionally good, and when they're bad, they're shocking. So we've got to be very careful. We've got, you know, a royal harbour, historic setting, beautiful architecture, etc., etc. And if we get this wrong, it's just going to add to that detritus that is blocking the view of the nice things in the high street. But yeah, flowers are, you know, a nice thing. So like, you've got to put them in something, haven't you? So if it's not that, what is it? Fair enough. But I think if we do it, then we must make sure they are quality and elegant and in keeping with everything. Otherwise, I think we're just adding, like I say, because when the flowers are dead or anything like that, there is nothing worse. The other thing I do want to say on a practical point of view is I'm assuming that they wouldn't be in the way of any lorries or anything going down there, because that's the only other thing I think. Because I've seen all sorts of lorries going there, and they've taken signs off, they've done all sorts of things. And so, because even if it leans just a little bit or goes up on a curve, they're going to take them out. So that's a consideration, which I'm sure that you're more than aware of. But there'd be nothing worse than putting that up and then one day later.
Okay, I happen to agree with everything you've just said. Councillor Green?
I agree with investigating it. I think poles that go over the existing bollards would be cheaper, would be more substantial. In other words, they won't get knocked down so easily. And I think we'll get permission easier to do it.
Okay, Councillor Austin was next.
I just wanted to pick up on what Councillor Nixie said, because I had meant to say, if we're going to do this in places like Harbour Street, where we already have a huge amount of street clutter, can we please consider discussing, as part of our highways plan with KCC, removing some of that unnecessary clutter, the huge amount of signage that we have along that very small stretch, for example.
And at the moment it's
appearance of it and is completely ignored.
And at the moment we've had a lot of scaffolding and stuff as part of the clutter. I've got Councillor Young and then Councillor Wing and then Councillor Nixie again.
It was Councillor.
Sorry, Councillor Young.
I just want to go back to the arches, to the lights, and you know where we come down the hill and we've got all those small arches inside. When I was a child, a long time ago, that we had lights, coloured lights in there, you know, with animals and various things. And I wondered, because we get the sun most of the day along there, we could have lights that run off their own solar panels. it would tidy up, because when you go down there, it is a bit of a mess. It's overgrown with this, that and the other. And I just think if you're going to have lights around the harbour, why not have lights down the road as well?
Okay, Councillor Wing next.
I think TDC is responsible for those lights. It's been one of the things that I've wanted to chase, and I think it's the harbour that's responsible for the arch lights that are further back, because they are shocking. But I'm totally agree. Anything that introduces more flowers into our town is a massive positive. But our experience up with our own containers up on Addington Street that are all looked after by volunteers is it's a relentless job watering, particularly in our climate, and we've researched and we started to plant drought resistant plants. So it's in looking at the whole situation, and dead plants look worse than no plants. Can we also build into the investigation the aftercare? So, you know, it's a bit like KCC with their street trees. They whack them in and then nobody waters them enough, so they die. So I think what we've got to do, and it needs to be in terms of our staff time as well. It's almost as if we really want to seriously beautify our town, we've got to have some dedicated daily time from our workforce, and if that workforce haven't got that time available, then we either need to make decisions to move things about and have different priorities. But I'm all for as many flowers as possible, but we also need to build in the aftercare costs and staff time.
Okay. I'm going to go to Councillor Nixie next, and then Councillor Ara, who I know actually is quite passionate about this because it was her. So Councillor Nixie.
So just as again, I know it's different and everything, but if this is difficult or something, one of the things that's really effective and it's not something that can be up all year. I appreciate that, but when Addington Street does the bunting along it or something like that, where we do any of the bunting, it is exceptional, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, that's incredible!" And so that's something, again, maybe we should be looking into for sort of like impact for the summer months or whenever it is. Because, you know, good quality bunting is something that's sustainable and, you know, beautiful as well, and out the way of the lorries.
And Councillor Ara.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I did speak to Rebecca about it, and I don't know how Margate, if they can look after these hanging baskets, I don't see why we can't. I mean, Cecily Square and, you know, around the harbour and even in Cliftonville, they have all these hanging baskets there. So
I would suggest that part of any investigation would be looking at who looks after other people's.
Yeah.
Because
just our neighbours.
So in that case, I'm going to make a proposal that we ask the town centre and tourism manager to investigate hanging poles and report back. Do I have a seconder? I have Councillor Ara to second that. All those in favour? Anyone against? Okay, you've got that one to do. Okay, so, and we're now on to item 7. And I'm hoping that Laura's listening at the door. No.
Item 7, Laura.
Bang on the wall.
Sorry, members of the public.
Yes, apologies.
Apologies from me.
If you suddenly got deafened there. Okay, so invited the town clerk to join us for the last item, and a report that has been written by the town clerk with regard to the active Ramsgate brief and project management. Now, has everyone read the report?
Yes.
Do we want to hear anything about it from the town clerk, or do we want to go straight into discussion?
Well,
Just for if there's any members of the public listening.
Okay. Good point, of course. So at the committee meeting in October 2022, it was resolved that Councillor Crittenden would lead a working group consisting of Councillor Huxley, the town promoter, the digital communications and marketing officer, and the senior tourism officer at Thanet District Council, with support from the town clerk, to finalise the draft brief for Active Ramsgate, including a proposal for how and who would manage the project, whether contractors, staff members or a combination of both, and to report back to the Town Promotion Committee in January with a proposal, by which time the council was expected to have approved the budget for 23-24. The proposal is that the committee is asked to consider the draft Active Ramsgate brief, which is attached to Appendix 1, and the draft job description for an Active Ramsgate project manager, which is contained at Appendix 2. I'm not going to read through the whole of those contents, but just to note that they are attached. It's proposed that rather than re-tender for a contract to undertake the role of Active Ramsgate project manager, contractor to undertake the role of Active Ramsgate project manager, when the existing contracts expire at the end of December 22, that the management of Active Ramsgate be brought in-house. The effectiveness and success of this to be reviewed after 1 year, with clear aims and objectives to be set and reviewed every 3 to 5 years. The existing project manager and PR contracts provide for the following activities: to project manage, including chairing the Active Ramsgate steering group and sustain current Active Ramsgate activities and initiatives, assist and advise in keeping the Active Ramsgate project offering fresh and innovative, assist and advise on marketing leaflets and collateral, including managing design, production, distribution of the Active Ramsgate town leaflet, and oversee the distribution of the leaflet, assist and advise in engaging with local businesses, and provide PR services to promote the Active Ramsgate project through press releases, features and articles. Now, the role of the chair of the Active Ramsgate working group has already been transferred to an elected councillor rather than the contractor. The issues that are for consideration include that there is already overlap in the work carried out by the town promoter and the external contractors. The current external contractors are contracted for 2 times 3 days per month or 1.5 days per week. After some time efficiency savings, there will be some additional work involved, which could be covered by increasing staff hours through appropriate staff management and or staff recruitment, which would be managed by the town clerk as the person who manages staffing on behalf of Ramsgate Town Council. It is anticipated that the cost of that would be covered within the existing budget that we have set aside for contractors. And it does go on a little bit about that further down. The existing contractors subcontract some specialist roles, in particular videography, which I would anticipate would continue to be contracted out. And the costs for those roles are also already contained within existing budget proposals. There will be an opportunity for increased partnership working with TDC Leisure and Tourism, including accessing promotional facilities and developing a contacts list. To ensure freshness of ideas, some design and marketing could also be contracted out to members of the local artistic community, something the town promoter already does for other products, and this again would be containable within the existing Active Ramsgate budgets. So the budget, there is currently £22,000 in the draft budget for 23-24 for Active Ramsgate consultants. But it should be remembered that when considering staffing costs, the council should also budget for necessary on-costs, so national insurance and LGPS contributions. It is suggested that the proposed officer would need to work 18 hours per week, and they would be on National Joint Council salary scale 18 to 23 at 18 hours per week. It would come to just over £18,000, which is within the £22,000 budget total. But there would be some additional set-up costs, such as laptop, mobile phone and training. There is currently an underspend in the 22-23 budget because we have not paid the contracts for any work done January to March because their contracts ended in December. So once the council confirms the budget and precept for the ensuing year on the 19th of January, it would be possible to progress to recruitment of this staff member as soon as possible. Now, let me I'm just breaking this down into the parts that are here. So the first recommendation is to approve the active Ramsgate brief, which is attached at item 7, appendix 1, which is very, very, very similar to the brief that was circulated for the last meeting before Christmas, if anyone remembers that. And then secondly, which is completely new, I've just got to find it, would be the job description for active Ramsgate project manager based on 18 hours per week. This has been compiled as a combination of the contents of the previous contractors' contracts and what they stated in there that they were doing, in discussion with the town clerk, the town promoter, myself and District Council Leisure and Tourism representative. I'm sorry, I forgot, and I'm sorry, your job title's too long to read out as well, Dean. I can never remember it in full, so my apologies for that, which is why I always never use it. And has specific responsibilities. So the main purpose of the role is overall project management of the Active Ramsgate initiative in line with the Active Ramsgate brief. Specific responsibilities, marketing and creative content, creative preparation and event organisation, reporting, some general duties, and obviously some personal responsibility for their own health and safety and what we do to look after us. So is that enough? Do we have any questions first? So
That was quite a lot, Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As Councillor Green pointed out, the people watching don't necessarily know everything. So I've got Councillor Huxley first.
Just to say, Chair, recommendation number 3 is consider the kite surfing championship. Should it return this year or not?
Yes, I'm. Hang on a minute. Where I've got. Let me get to the right page. I'm going too far there. I haven't got there. At the moment, I am asking for approving the Active Ramsgate brief and the Active Ramsgate project manager job. I will come to the kite surfing in a minute. I want to do that separately, if that's all right. So I'm only looking at the first 2 recommendations at this point. Councillor Green, then Councillor Hetherington.
I've no problem with refreshing the Active Ramsgate brief. I think it's time that we did that. I do have concerns about the job description for the post that's being proposed. It's strong on the administration, weak, in my opinion, on the person that we were likely to fill that to have any real flair or wider experience in the sort of activities that we would want to attract for an active Ramsgate programme. And I don't see where we could, or how, using that brief, that person that's described,
okay,
where we could get that from, unless we also contracted with TDC or KCC, who do have those sorts of people that are involved in the industry.
We would be, we do already, and we would continue to be working in conjunction with both KCC and TDC, and our relationship with KCC would actually become closer than it has been. The contractors were liaising with KCC, but as our own staff and councillors, we weren't. So everything, all the liaison with KCC was done solely through the contractors, whereas it would be done by this role holder and the town promoter as well.
Town promoter's role has changed, isn't it?
Yes, it has, but she would be able to be involved with that. And perhaps maybe I'll ask the town clerk if she wants to add anything to what I've just said in response to your question.
One thing is that actually the salary that's proposed, if you look at the full-time equivalent, that's not a general admin salary. So I think actually what can be expected of the person at that rate, if it is more than general admin, so it may well be that actually the wording of the job description can be amended to reflect that. But I think actually creativity and flair can be expected at that level of salary.
I'm just looking at the job description, and there is one line within it at the, where it talks about develop fresh ideas for activities, which is about the creative side. Develop new angles and old ideas to create new activities, as well as ensuring that seasonal activities are available and out of season activities are available. Come up with ideas for approval by the council and liaising with other local stakeholders are all within that part of the job description. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, Chair, I think, you know, when you look at the report and we look at the existing and previous activities and promotions have included, well, you've got the great list there of activities and further opportunities to develop. Have our consultants done that? The answer is I don't believe they have. So I think they've tailed off from what we've previously had. And when you think about activities that you can have in a seaside town, you know, there's not too many more that you can, unless we're going to have a Grand Prix running around here once or once a year, or donkeys on the beach, or whatever that may be. But there's just a glaring thing here, I'm thinking, you know, we've got 2 golf courses down the road, there's no mention of it. No mention of it. You know, what have they done? Have they done that? Have they tried to work? Have these consultants tried to work with the two golf courses to try and get you know, some agreement with them? Maybe they want to come up with some money to get themselves advertised, and then we can blah blah blah. There's stuff like that. I'm fully in favour of us trying this in-house. So it's going to be reviewed after a year. I suggest, you know, you can have a 1-year contract for somebody to come in and to do this. I also, going back to a point that Councillor Nixie made in an earlier discussion about using the internet, right? You went on your phone in 2 minutes and looked up what could be done in relation to the issue that we were discussing. Now that's not beyond the dreams of Orwin that the person who's going to be coming in has some common sense and some ideas, that they can't do that to see where other expansion can be. So I support that. I agree with you, David, in relation to the job description. I think it needs to be a bit stronger in relation to the post and to what we would expect. And I think the town clerk's taken that on board anyway, because she mentioned it herself. So as far as I'm concerned, I would support it, providing that those little bits are taken into consideration.
I think one thing I'd like to add is, I know I can't quote it from, I know it's in here somewhere, where it refers to the town promoter at times does a lot of design of leaflets and other things, but is very aware that we can become stale and sometimes we can find it difficult.
All right, Laura.
And it's good to be able to contract in second opinion, another creative who can do something. There's no reason.
Sorry, Chair, I was just worried.
Somebody was saying hello downstairs.
He sounded friendly.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope so.
There's no reason why whoever is in this role cannot also do the same. We have an army of creatives in Ramsgate. I'm sure that we can engage some of those on small contractual pieces not just the person who's doing this role, because I understand completely where you're coming from on that, Councillor Green. It's like maintaining creativity can be difficult. And I know that our town promoter, still sticking to the old title because I haven't remembered the new one yet, has said the same, that we need to do that. So the other thing I would suggest that perhaps we haven't done here, and which we probably should have done, is the other document that goes out with job descriptions, which is the essential desired, the person specification, which we haven't done, but will probably need to be done before this is actually advertised. So
which can reflect some of the
yes, and so that can be so the concern you've raised can be taken on board within that. Would that be acceptable?
I think so. I'll propose it, Chair.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Huxley. And so what we are proposing and seconding is items 1 and 2 to approve the active Ramsgate brief and the active Ramsgate manager job description, with recruitment to commence as soon as the 23-24 budget is approved.
The question of clarity, are we talking about a post or a 1-year contract?
I think we're talking about a post. It's coming out of the active Ramsgate budget. My anticipation is that if that post is then made permanent, then that element of the active Ramsgate budget next time around would go into the staffing budget, but it would be at the end of the first year review. Then those are the decisions that would need to be made at the end of the first year. Does that? Firstly, I'm just going to check that with the town clerk and ask you to confirm what I've just said.
Yes. May I also add into that?
Absolutely.
Also, I'd keep in mind that whoever is appointed would be subject to a 6-month probationary period. So actually, if we appointed someone who was not able to undertake the work that we want, there's a probationary period to address that. Also, there's no reason that at some point in the future the council can't decide it's not doing this anymore, or that so even though it may be an ongoing role for a period, that doesn't mean that there isn't ways to bring things to a close or change if required.
Okay. I have firstly Councillor Orban and then Councillor Wing.
I would suggest, Chair, that the post is a temporary post for 1 year, and then as the council can then see with a possibility of it being permanent.
As a contract.
Pardon?
That to me is a contract.
Sorry.
That to me is a contract.
Yeah.
It's a temporary contract.
Yeah, but they are employed as.
That's not what I'm hearing.
As employed as a staff member.
Yes.
Member of staff. As you'd have a temporary, you have a temporary post for a period of a year, and they are employed as an RTC employee.
Yeah. With a view to a possible.
With a view to the possible potential of a permanent post, providing
the job description does talk about national insurance and.
So effectively, it's a post with a 1 year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, temporary post, David.
With a view to being made either permanent or
extended.
At the end of that year.
Or at the individual. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Councillor Wing.
I fully support what Steve says, because we're moving from one situation where we seem to have had quite a lot of staff who were long-arming work within Ramsgate, which has its pros and cons, to a situation where we're not quite sure where we're going. So we need a flexible period, because in 12 months' time we could be still, the person in post could have discovered that actually we need to go down this route and that route. So I think there needs to be flexibility within the role to react to what that person sees as should be happening and what we see should be happening.
Yeah.
to maximise outputs and benefits for Ramsgate, really. So it needs flexibility in a temporary situation. That
It's at the very least, the first year would be a transition period from this being run by someone over whom we actually have no control to someone who is in a very, very similar way to, when town promoter role was formally contracted and then became staff. So it was, this is like moving, except that we kept the same person then, but this time we're looking at a different different person. Okay, so I do have a proposal, Councillor Green, and then Councillor Hetherington.
Will this member of staff report to the town clerk?
Indeed.
Yes.
Or to the...
Perhaps town clerk can confirm that.
Well, the job description before you, I was actually suggesting that in the first instance, they're reporting to the town centre and tourism manager.
That's the word.
but there you go.
So who is that?
I have discussed this with town centre and tourism manager, who does have previous line management experience for the day-to-day working of the role, but then ultimately all staff are under my umbrella.
And I think I had Councillor Hetherington.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question, but I was also going to comment that when we've advertised lately for posts, we've had a very good response, and
we have.
This will come out in the interview, the creatives. So I think we can.
We have an entire army of creatives.
Indeed we do.
And
yes.
I'm hoping that some of that army will be coming forward. So again, I have it proposed and I have it seconded. All agree?
Yes.
Anyone against? Can we note against, please? And
Always one, isn't there?
were there any abstentions, I should have asked? No. Okay, so the third recommendation is to consider if the kite surfing championship should return for 2023, and to recommend that council that it be removed from the 2020 budget. Now, can I just say, at the top of the active Ramsgate initiatives item number 2, it says there's currently 22k in the draft 23-24 budget for active Ramsgate initiatives, and then goes on to list campaigns and new product development. And the British Kite Surfing Championship is listed under there. The costs of hosting the Kite Surfing Championship is not included within the 22k. As you can see from item 3 underneath, it's actually an additional 15k over and above that 22. So, Councillor Green, I see you.
Talking to people in the industry, our beach just isn't suitable. The conditions on our beach just aren't suitable for discovered for kite surfing due to the slope of the beach, the currents. And usually the weather.
Yeah.
So I would propose we don't continue.
I think.
I'll second that.
I think that's very much come out in the section that the town centre and tourism manager.
Thank you, Councillor Hudson. I am encouraged.
And I think that's very much come out in, and certainly within the link, if you followed the link from there, that actually highlights the 12 best kite surfing spots near London and in the UK. Certainly we're not a part of it. I can see Councillor Wing next.
I agree. I mean, it's really an activity that not many people can access. I did 90 minutes of being dragged through water, too old, not strong enough. And I really feel that going down the paddleboard route was a sensible thing to do, because it is an activity that I can access as a newly 60-year-old. And I'm just wondering, so I agree that we don't put on the kite surfing for the same reasons as David said, but also the additional reasons that I've just mentioned. But there is a growing use of our coastline, particularly paddleboarding, Why we haven't got a dinghy sailing centre, I don't know. But also our sea swimmers. So we have, and I believe we've got an increasing number of people who are actually accessing our beaches. One of the most fabulous spends for me as a sea swimmer up on the Western Undercliff was a series of knobs that we can hang our clothes on. It probably, I don't know how that happened, but is there any way we can probably, so what I'm saying is we're getting rid of kite surfing, but there's a whole host of other things that are emerging, and if we've got a small budget and with this new post coming on board, we could push them further. So, for instance, there are 200 members of mermaids on the West Undercliff. We could become a national centre for wild swimming across our place. So, can we keep some of this budget and actually earmark it for waterborne activities that might replace kite surfing that are more accessible to our population of visitors?
Okay, before I bring in Councillor Alban and Councillor Hetherington, I will just attempt to answer that a little bit. As part of the Active Ramsgate, in the absence of having a breakdown of potential costs from the contractors for the coming year, I just did a straight 10% uplift and said, we'll just add 10% on because that represents inflation. As it happens, I have since learned that we are actually underspent on the £20,000 from last year. And so there is a little bit of flexibility, not a huge amount of underspend, I'll hasten to add in front of our finance person, but there has been a little bit of an underspend. So there is some flexibility within that to look at promoting other activities such as that, I believe. If we say no to the kite surfing this year, then actually that puts £15,000 back into the general budget to be used for whatever else is needed. But I think we should be able to contain any additional events such as you're talking about within the £22,000 that I'm actually asking for Active Ramsgate. So I don't know if Town Clerk wants to add anything to that on the budget side, because we had that discussion. No. And Town Centre and Tourism Manager.
No, I think it's all covered really, and other comments that councillors have made to reiterate what's already been written.
I think
I shall be brief, Chair. I shall be brief.
Excellent.
Because I need to go home. It is true that the kite surfing championships that we've had have brought no kite surfers to Ramsgate. You know, during the summer, it's not a good place, as David said, the beach isn't right, etc., etc. So, and they're quite an insular bunch, like a lot of groups are, and they say we're going to sell. I'm not saying they don't spend anything in town, but they are quite insular. They come maybe in their camper vans or whatever it may be. Yeah, so I'm, whilst it's nice to have a sporting event, in the town, I don't think it's been a particularly beneficial to the town. So I'm just, I agree. I'll just
I have Councillor Hetherington on my list.
Well, pretty much along the same lines as what Councillor Wing said. I mean, we've got good opportunities here for coastal swimming, which is a very kind of lonely, well, a lot of people would spend money to go abroad and do this, but we can do this along our coast with accompanying boats. It's quite a reasonable thing to do.
And you don't need any budget.
And also, we've already got shops that are selling more kit now in the town. I mean, because of the number of people that are swimming, there are 3 shops that are selling kit now. So we're sitting on, and we have diving potential here as well, which we don't seem to ever talk about.
There is Ramsgate to Broadstairs.
Exactly, which could be made more of.
Which does need the support. We need safety support.
These are issues that our hopefully new person in post will be able to pick up on, and certainly I know that our Town Centre and Tourism Manager, I've got it, has a number of items that we're looking certainly at embedding existing things but adding new ones to it. I now have Councillor Green.
Well, just to say, I think only council can create a budget, but the new person, whoever we employ, will need a budget, and I would support that money going to that.
That budget is the £22,000 for Active Ramsgate, so that will be their budget, under the supervision of.
So they don't. Are you saying they don't need the extra?
The extra 15.
Budget.
The extra 15 for the kite surfing? No.
Okay.
We would be releasing that back into the budget.
So a motion could be put forward to buy some of that money back.
Can we move to vote, Chair?
Yeah, I did have councillor Young, hold on a minute, I did have councillor Young.
All this talk about the water and swimming in the sea, etc. But have we heard anything more back from Southern Water about the spillages we've lived through this last year? You know, what preventions are there going to be?
He's on it, Bob.
Okay, councillor Nixie, I think, has an answer to that.
I was told there were different outlets all over the place. Do we know where all these outlets are?
Councillor Nixie.
Only our MP said categorically on social media, publicly down on the beach, and various other places at a meeting with Southern Water that he would look into this for us. So I suggest we write to our MP as a council to see if we can answer Councillor Young's questions.
Town Clerk. Councillor Wing. Hope
There is the SOS Ramsgate are pursuing this, and I've done some of it as a TDC councillor and also a swimmer. I can tell you that on the 27th, the people that went in that water were subject to a spillage the night before, and it was issued too late, so all those people swam in potentially contaminated water. They dealt with my request under an environmental information request and sent me, they're really quite cooperative actually, sent me the information concerning the outfall pipes from Margate round, but not this side. So I've requested all the outflow pipes on this side. There is about 9 or 10 on the top, which I didn't realise we had that many because we were always told about the main one. So as soon as I've got all of them, I'll distribute round the outflow pipes that I've got so far. And there is a group of us trying to do what we can to keep Southern Water on their toes.
Okay. If I can bring this back to the actual proposal before us, and that is I'm going to propose that we do not have the kite surfing championship in 2023 and that the budget.
It's already been proposed.
Oh, sorry. You proposed.
No. David Green. Proposed it, I seconded it.
My apologies. Apologies. Obviously in the ditches coming out of the sewage pipes, I lost.
Get on.
Who's in favour?
Thank you.
Okay.
Proposed too often.
Anyone against? And no abstentions. Okay, thank you. That's it for tonight. The date and time of the next meeting is 12th of April at 7 p.m.
The task for the next meeting is to learn